Hello Robots, this is Sonic Flavor here, and today I'll be doing a Rapier run. The Rapier is a quick focused melee weapon that has the potential to hit really high numbers, and can easily shred through glides and bosses. I've also chosen Ranger for this weapon since Ranger is great at hitting higher crits than most other classes. Ideally, if I wanted to optimize this weapon, I would have chosen Recon for the sheer fire rate that it can just put out, so it can shred through everything. But for fun, I wanted to use Ranger to hit that high crit damage. But I'm just gonna let you know before I say anything else, this is not definitive since I do not know everything about this game, so please feel welcome to correct me in the comments below in case I'm wrong. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this weapon showcase. During this part of the run, we did get lucky with getting the option to choose between Point Blank and Supreme Crit, which was really good. I chose to go for Point Blank, and this may be a weird choice at the moment, but I will explain. I chose to go for Point Blank because I would like more in general damage rather than just crit. At the moment, I did not know I would get a Rapier that early, but I did get Firepaw to decrease the debuffs by 50%. I was debating on getting Gingerbread Jeremy that increases the heal bot's healing by 40%, but I wouldn't really say it was that hard of a choice since the healing is not really a problem whatsoever. And the reduction to the debuffs are really nice. We did get Eggplant, but that is not useful to me in any way, shape, or form since I'm not doing anything with Shock. And I am putting Fire on my Rapier. My decision in this is because Fire is really nice for the extra damage. I am not going for Cryo because if I did go for Cryo, I would be going for things like Cryo Yo-Yo, which would just add much more crit to the Rapier. And the Rapier already has a lot of crit on it. And I would say that I should be putting much more things to help its general damage. With getting perfume that increases our fire rate and having broom on our side, we're off to a pretty good start. I'm not really thinking about just upgrading my weapon rarity yet, since I do kind of want to save on the power cells. And it's not really that important anyway, since we have burn anyways, and we're doing pretty good damage as well too. As long as I just keep upgrading the rapier, then I should be okay, and I think I might want to upgrade my rarity somewhere around Haven. And we got red balloon. It looks like we're on our way to making a pretty decent build. Especially with hot dog with its AoE and the candle with its 10% increased burn damage. It's looking pretty good. To be honest with you, at that moment, I was debating on just throwing in the towel and just giving up on this run and just starting a new one. But since I got Rapier so early in this run, and it's supposed to be a weapon showcase, and especially I got Beastly Ferocity, and I also got a coffee mug, and that bonus, I got bow tie. I was like, you know what? Let's continue this run. Now we did get another rapier with rocket jump, but we also got crab missile too. And the fire damage to our javelins are like really nice, since like our javelins are practically the only range thing that we have. So I had to go for crab. But if that rapier had booster instead of rocket jump, then I would have 100% chosen that. Now that we got ourselves to the checkpoint, and we got Toaster especially, now we're pretty damn powerful. The only thing that I was really worried about right now was if my weapon was too under level, because I don't want it to be short on any damage whatsoever. And I'm especially looking towards the next boss. Getting into the next boss room, I did find Willy Wonder, but unfortunately I did not have enough power cells to upgrade since we are arriving into Haven. But it shouldn't really be a problem since, I mean, there's not really much to say about what happens to the boss. Getting into Haven, I did find Bull, and I had to choose between Rubber Ducky and Button, but I did just opt for Rubber Ducky for the fire rate increase and movement increase, just since we already have enough damage, I would say. I could have upgraded my weapon rarity, but I probably would decide that, we'll probably find Willy Wonder in like one of the 3 areas. And even then, we're doing still pretty good damage. And I wouldn't really say that we really need to upgrade necessarily. I did choose to reroll our general stats because they did not provide us with anything useful whatsoever. But I don't have another reroll for the next perk, which is going to be a little bit scary if I were to end up with just bad options. But I will do it just so I can make the perfect build. Unfortunately, I was not able to get what I wanted whatsoever with the Supreme Crit, but we did end up with True Shot, which was not bad as extra damage, just in general. Unfortunately, we did not have enough cells to get microphone nor party popper, which was very unfortunate since they would have been really, really nice for a build. But I was thinking about going back. Unfortunately, I did not go back to get microphone nor party popper, but I did manage to get scarf, which is really nice. I also had the option to take poppy, but I did not take poppy because I did not want to rely on auto crits, and I would rather have critical. we got Lotus. I fucking love Lotus. Since I do so many melee builds, I fucking love this thing. Like, this thing makes melee builds way more easier. Like, this is, I would say, even a necessity for melee builds, as long as you want to use them much more easier. Even without Lotus, I would still say melee builds are extremely good, because Lotus just makes them way more easier. Since in Roboquest, you're always moving around, so you're always going to be picking up healing cells. And it doesn't matter how much time they're active for, you're just going to pick them up anyways. It is very unfortunate that we were not able to get burned on our rapier, but I wouldn't really say that's much of a big of a deal whatsoever, because we still have our crit rate and we still have lots of fire rate as well too. But we will be losing out on lots of damage. And we still have our fire javelins to make up for the lack of fire damage. And on the offhand, I did manage to get stamp for when we faced the moon. And well, I would say the boss fight itself would speak for itself. Heading over to the moon, I found Chef Ball and I rerolled my stats on my rapier to get burn. I did find the auto crit perfume on Willy Wonder, and I debated on taking it, but I prefer my fire rate way more. I wasn't very worried about anything whatsoever, since we are able to like shred through all the enemies. And for our upcoming fight towards Iris, I wasn't worried whatsoever, since I was very confident that we were able to turn Iris into Swiss cheese. And with Iris defeated, the run ends and this video ends. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did. And of course share this video, and I'll be seeing you later.